Hey, good morning, everyone. Good morning. I don't know when you're listening to this. I'm recording it in the morning, so I'll say good morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Crosswinds Church More Than Sunday podcast. Today, we are kicking off Holy Week. Well, really, yesterday we did in our service, but it's Monday, and we're going to talk a little bit with Jodie Tey about what our plan this week is for remembering the crucifixion and getting ready to celebrate the resurrection. Enjoy this. All right. Well, I'm here with Jodie Tey, who is our Associate Pastor at Crosswinds. Jodie, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Are you
Good.
hanging here? Like, what's it now? Yesterday, we're recording this like April 2nd, and it's gonna be put out Monday, so like 4 days from now. But yesterday, we all got the news that our kids are not going back to school. How are you doing with that?
Oh my gosh. Well, I kind of suspected it. And I feel like even over the last couple of days, we've been kind of getting into a rhythm. Like the new normal is kind of starting to settle in. So it wasn't horrible getting that news. I thought, okay, maybe we can do this.
Yeah. How are your kids feeling about that news?
I think they're sad because they're really missing the social aspect of school. And so more than anything, they're missing their friends and they're wanting to go back to school for that reason. So they're a little sad about that, but we're trying to keep them connected on Zoom and FaceTime and things like that. So they're all right.
I'm surprised how good my girls are getting along. They're like 5 years apart, 16, and they're actually doing pretty well with each other. How are your boys?
That's awesome. Well, boys are a little different. Everything turns physical. And so I'm like, dudes, if something happens, I'm not taking you to an emergency room. So keep your hands off each other.
Right. That's a great point. You're going to be doing triage at your own house.
Yes, I'm really good at it, though. I've got lots of crazy glue on hand.
Right. There you go. Well, I asked Jodie to come on the podcast today so that we could talk a little bit about what our plan was for Good Friday coming up at the end of this week. And we know this is Holy Week. We kicked it off. What'll be for everyone here yesterday as you're listening, our Palm Sunday service. And in that message, I tried as much as I could to bring in a good amount of the story of the cross, because I knew we wouldn't be able to have our traditional Good Friday service this year.
Right.
We were going to do that this year. Last year we did a prayer labyrinth. It seems like every other year we either do something experiential or we do a service. And this year was going to be to do a service. Derek and I had been planning that. And, this thing happened.
Right.
So Jodie, you've created an experience for Good Friday in light of what's going on, one that people can do. In fact, we've even had to change that, haven't we?
Yes.
We created an experience that you could do sheltered in place initially, coming here to the church just on your own or with your family, because we were like, what could possibly go wrong?
Exactly.
People staying 6 feet apart, and then 2 days ago, we got the further shelter in place with even more restrictive measures, right?
Yes.
And you adapted.
Yes, we adapted. First of all, Crosswinds, I miss you. And the thought of not being with you during Holy Week or for Easter weekend is just a really hard thing. And so I've really just kind of put together a labor of love for you and have really enjoyed just spending some time writing out this self-guided personal retreat for Good Friday. As Chris, you just said that, we did the prayer labyrinth last year, and that was kind of a self-guided meditation on some of the events of Holy Week. And this is kind of like that. It's in that same kind of spirit where you're going to be, you're going to have a guide, and it's just going to walk you through some meditations and some thoughts about some of the events surrounding Holy Week. Only I've kind of written it so it's very focused in terms of what we're all dealing with in the midst of this pandemic, coronavirus, shelter in place season. So it's very specific to this thing that we're in. That's very unique to all of our situations right now.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what you've written.
So I've kind of focused it on the theme of grief. And I know that sounds like, well, why would we want to focus on grief? And Good Friday, this is the season of grief, oddly enough. As we look to the events of Holy Week, as we look to Good Friday, it is all about grief and sorrow and lament. And I think that when we are able to kind of quiet ourselves and think about where we are as individuals, as a community, as a nation and world, we are in a collective season of grief.
Yeah.
And I think it is so important for us to, several weeks ago, we talked about the swirl and how our minds get preoccupied. I think that even though we have slowed down and we're sheltering in place, I think the swirl is bigger than it has ever been for all of us. The things that we're thinking about, that our lives might be slow, but our minds are running on they're going 90 miles an hour thinking about the what ifs, how am I going to handle this? And I think that this retreat is such an opportunity for you to slow down even your mind and kind of tap into maybe some of the grief that you're experiencing. I know I'm experiencing it. I will find myself sorrowful, maybe just crying at the drop of a dime or lashing out for some reason. And I can't put my finger on that thing. But that thing is grief. I think that we're all experiencing it. And this is such an opportunity to tap into that and figure out how you're experiencing that. And then what do we do with it? Can it be our teacher somehow? By holding it, embracing it, and then kind of handing it over to God to see what he wants to do with it. So I think if you take the time to do this retreat, it will be very powerful.
Yeah, I think all of this kind of pointing toward Jesus on the cross and what it is to grieve that, so important. I think it's always bugged me a little bit and I grew up in the church, so I've experienced quite a bit of this. It's not my experience of crosswinds, but growing up, it was that we kind of quickly skipped from one Sunday to the next Sunday, which was and we celebrated a resurrection without having mourned a crucifixion. And I think that's part of what you've put together for us, for us to be able to walk through that. How do you anticipate people doing it? I mean, is this something that, like I do in my house? Do I go for a walk? What are you thinking?
So it's a portable retreat. Number one, so you can do it. You can do it anywhere. You could read it off of your phone. It's a portable retreat. You could.
You just coined that phrase.
I did. It's a portable retreat. So you could print it out if you're someone who likes paper and likes to journal and write. You could print it out and find a quiet space in your home or walk to a park. You could get in your car and drive somewhere that's got scenery and do it there. You could just read it off your phone if you're someone who likes to do things that way, or a device. But you get to customize it. That's what I love about it. Sheltering in place, if you've got kids or work responsibilities, carving out an hour of time might be really hard. Carving out 3 hours, you could easily spend 3 hours doing this retreat if you wanted
is
to.
The idea that you do it all at once, that you
if you want
for yourself, or what?
Yeah, you could do it all at once if you want. It's written in 3 sections, so you could sit and do all of the sections if you wanted at one time. Or if you know that's not possible for you, you could kind of divide it up and maybe do it at 3 different times of the day, or do it at different times over Easter weekend. The point is that you kind of get through it by Easter morning, so to speak, but you can kind of carve out the time as you can, as it's possible for you. Yeah. But I really do recommend that you carve out a quiet time, a quiet space, and give yourself some room to breathe and not rush through it if at all possible.
So you can do this anywhere that you feel safe and comfortable sheltering, all of those things. And at the same time, and I didn't tell you I was going to do this, but I will just say, if anybody wants to drive over to the church and walk the prayer path, the paths, and sit in front of the cross and do this in that kind of a setting, our campus is open. And I know that, we've closed down parks and everything is happening right now, being told to stay at home. And so then maybe that's what you're supposed to do. but I also know that some of you aren't going to listen to that. And if you don't, no one here is going to shame you for using a lot of hand sanitizer and wipes, Lysol wipes, and finding a space out here to sit and just kind of have your Good Friday experience in this setting.
Yeah, oddly enough, that you say that, as I was writing it, I kept picturing myself before the cross in our parking lot, sitting on one of those benches. And that visual to me has been so powerful, even as I've been writing it and thinking about and reflecting on this retreat. So, yeah. Yeah, me too. I think there is something special about this place, and we leave that open for you. I don't. By no means does this experience have to happen here. So it's portable, as you put it. Yeah, it's portable.
Yeah. Good, Jodie. Yeah. So how are we going to get this thing out to people? What's our plan?
Well, it's going to be downloadable, so you'll be able to download it from our website, but I believe we're also going to email it out to you. So you can go searching for it online, but we will also get it into your hands via email, so you won't have to look too hard for it.
Okay, great. Yeah. Hey, the other thing I'd say is when you do get this PDF or whatever it is that people are reading this off of, you might see some words on there that this isn't just from Crosswinds, but this is from something called the Creekside Center for Spiritual Formation. And Jodie, I didn't tell you I was going to bring this up, but can you explain to everybody a little bit of what the vision is for this Creekside Center thing that we've been starting to kind of leak or mention a little bit?
Sure. As I think about Creekside Center and what it is, it's really about us creating sacred space and offering things to people to help them create a sacred space so that they can deepen their connection with God. And that comes in many forms. It comes in things like this, like a portable, self-guided spiritual formation retreat. It's going to come through spiritual direction and our spiritual directors when we get up and running. It will come through intellectual intensives like we've been doing with Steve Giralli, where you're learning something and doing a deep dive on a topic that really has the potential to kind of shift your paradigms and alter how you view the world and God and how you live. And so really the things that are coming out of Creekside will be these opportunities or these platforms to that give you opportunities to create sacred space in your life and show you how to do that and what that means.
Well put. I think, what we have been noticing for the last couple of years, and Jodie and I have been spending a lot of time talking about this, is just a growing number of people in our world who obviously have a need for Jesus, a connection with God, and maybe do not know how to find that in the context of a church, no matter how untraditional, non-traditional that church is. And maybe what they're open to is more of a spiritual formation experience out of a center. I put that in air quotes.
Right.
You can't see me because we're only audio. Than they would out of going to a traditional Sunday church service or something along those lines. And as we've been looking at a number of the things we've already been offering as a church, things like the classes that Jodie was mentioning and some of these more half-day retreat formation experiences and spiritual direction, we're realizing, maybe there's a better banner to put that under than just Crosswinds Church. And maybe because of that, it opens this up to people from all over the Tri-Valley, all over the Bay Area, who might have stayed away because it's church as they think church is. If that makes sense at all.
It makes perfect sense. I think we've even found as we've started kind of advertising some of our things to the community, like through the patch and things like that, through the Tri-Valley, that people have been finding us and they've been coming out to some of our events, people who are not currently going to church, but they are still very much into connecting with God and kind of finding their connection with him. They've been doing that and finding that through some of the things that we've been offering. And that has kind of elevated our conversation, yours and mine, Chris, in terms of, okay, well, what do we do to broaden our reach with that? And we think that can happen through Creekside Center. Yeah. And so things like this Good Friday portable retreat, as you put it,
This is something we're sending out to the Crosswinds congregation. But the fact of the matter is, you've put some work into this, and this could be people all over the Bay Area, all over the country. It doesn't need to be limited to Crosswinds. Again, part of where we've said, well, maybe something coming from Creekside Center for spiritual formation is going to be more accessible for people or welcome.
Absolutely. It's for everyone. It's for anyone who's kind of craving that experience and needing some tools to help guide them into that deeper connection, that with God life that they're looking for. So, yeah. So
you'll hear way more about that in the coming months as we get a little closer to our Vision Sunday around here and some other things coming up we've got planned. But just don't be surprised when you get your email and the PDF has something about that on it. So,
right.
All right. Thank you, Jodie. Anything else we ought to know about this?
I would just say, if you can make your way to the end of the retreat, I think it's worth your while to carve out the time and put some time into it and just get to the end, because I think it will inform how you experience Easter this year. And I think it'll be very powerful.
Yeah, there's something that you do at the end that is something that you will be kind of living with between now and Easter Sunday.
That's right.
And the thought is, you might do that in your house, right? And have that be we don't want to give it away, I think. So we're talking in mysterious code. In your house. Could you potentially do that thing at the cross here if you wanted to?
You could, if you wanted to. Yep. And so in order to find out what that thing is, you got to get all the way to the end.
Okay. All right, Jodie.
All right.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Appreciate it. Stay healthy.
Happy Easter, everyone.